Yeah. Hello. What's your name? Stephanie? Last name? M? Okay, thank you. Brett, your hair looks good, doesn't it? He's not single though. That's the problem. So do you have any questions, any comments before we go home? Medicine?
Yes. I was wondering why you chose the sitting style for your classroom.
What?
Why did you choose?
How would you like to sit? Like a round table?
Circle, like where
I just unlocked the door. The seats are just this way.
I can get closer.
Well, it really depends how sick you want to get.
Are you sick?
In some ways. Abi, hello. How are you? How old are you? 28? Yeah, nobody likes anybody like that initially. Of course, yeah. You know, I just looked at some woman some years ago. I didn't like her like that. Then things just grew. Oh. Yes, Leah. So I'll give you two figures in the history of philosophy, or maybe more. The first is the 19th century figure named Friedrich Nietzsche. He was German. Some people argue that he was gay. I don't really know. He had a miserable life in the sense that he didn't have any brothers. He just had women around him, sisters, like 9 of them. One of his sisters married a Nazi whom he didn't really like. He was also an introvert. And introverts are funny in the sense that they are the feeler types. They feel things intensely. And so from the moment they wake up to the time they go to bed, there's just this conflict about them. Nietzsche had this mustache. You know, it would be like a mile this way and a mile that way. And once in a while, his companion would ask, why not shave your mustache? And he said, human eyes are doors to their souls. And it's not decent for strangers to walk in without permission. And I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Friedrich Nietzsche. He had this very, very inviting look to him. Like you look into his eyes and all of a sudden sadness overtakes you. Then you begin to think about your own life, and then you may want to jump from Golden Gate Bridge. And so he mentioned that since I don't want just anyone to look into my eyes, I'm going to grow my mustache, and I'm going to grow it very, very, very long. Not because it looks good on me, but because it distracts people. Instead of them looking into my eyes, they will simply look at my mustache. And instead of them asking me, so Nietzsche, why are you so sad? They'll ask me, so how long did it take you to grow your mustache? What sort of wax do you put on it? And so on and so forth. He had argued that in life there are only two ways you can combat life. Someone breaks your heart, let's just say. What can you do? Well, you cry. You're broken into 1,001 pieces. If, on the other hand, you're not a novice in the game of human relationships and you're somewhat reflective, you just laugh. And you don't laugh because it's funny. You laugh because it's absurd. It just doesn't make any sense. So, humor is not so much about the funny stuff of life. It's about how sad and miserable life. Stacy, hello. Hello. So that's one aspect of comedy. The other comes from another miserable fellow by the name of Søren Kierkegaard. Danish. Let's move on. Anyone else? He had argued that the most melancholic of all human beings have the best senses of humor. I mean, consider, you're a Christian, Leo? Oh, you should be. Consider that fellow in the Gospels, Jesus. I mean, this guy like carries a cross, so to speak, right? And you ask him a question, he tells his story. That's funny. And his stories, you know, they all have to do with how miserable human beings are, how awful politics is, and how awful society is. Comedy. And then you have your stupid people, you know, who go on the stage and just begin to use profanity to get a laugh, to make some money. Those are just the stupid folks. Yeah. EJ, anything?
How old the building is?
This one?
Any of them.
Why? It looks like a dump?
Well, we don't usually make buildings with bricks in the Bay Area anymore. It's a brickplace. So because it's made of bricks, I would imagine it's quite old. I don't know how old.
I see. You can Google it. Anyone else?
Yeah, purpose for your life is going on me. So,
Hello.
I know you.
So, look. This morning you woke up, Queen. You said, you know what? I want to stay home. But damn it, I got to go to class. Okay? The class is an imposition on your freedom. You want to stay home, you want to relax, maybe you want to have breakfast in bed with your dog or your companion. They're both the same, really. But you kind of look at your future, you look at your age, you look at your skin color, and you realize that you're suffering from 3 branches of condemnation. First, you're no longer 20, which means that when you look yourself in the mirror, you realize that you have some age on you, you've made some mistakes, you regret having made those mistakes, but there isn't much you can do. And so, despite the fact that human beings are wired to be slothful, lazy, you know, you drag your sorry behind out of the bed, you take a shower, you say, I'm just going to go to class. It's boring, I don't like the sky, I don't like any of these people, especially the white folks, but nevertheless. You also worry about your future. You know, you say, well, you know, I'm getting to be 30, 40, 50, 60. I haven't gotten anywhere in life. I work at In-N-Out at Home Depot. I'm a single mom or I'm a single dad, whatever the case may be. I got no mom, no dad, no this, no that. Maybe I should make something of my life. And every time you find yourself condemned, it's because you've realized something. Okay? So you force yourself out of bed and you come here. This class, despite the fact that you don't like it, it gives you purpose. Now, that's short-term purpose. It's like, you know, you're bored, you're lonely, you're sad, you're depressed, you're angry, you go to a party, you see someone out there, you become a political animal, you get their number, you text them, you take them home, and you screw them. And then once, you know, your pleasures have been satisfied, you grab your gun, point at their head, and you say, get out. I'm done with you. Now that's short term. But your dilemma still remains, you know. My name is so-and-so, I'm so sad, pathetic, lonely, miserable. Does your life, my life, have a purpose on the whole? I don't really know. One of the problems we've had for the past many thousands of years is you live 50, 60, 70 years, 80 years. You do all sorts of things. And then you die. No one remembers you after like a week or two. It's as if you never existed. And so there is this desperate attempt by all human beings, you know, to find a way to become memorable. And human beings, I mean, humanity hasn't really created very many heroes out there. You know, in this class, we'll probably talk about Gilgamesh, some 10,000 years ago, Malcolm X, Mahatma Gandhi, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the Buddha. Maybe 20 people that you can count whose names will never be erased. You and I, our life is shit. We have no talent for anything except make some money, eat some food, and then shitting. That's it. And once you and I die, and usually about 85% of the people die miserable, painful deaths.
That's next. So we are right.
It's a delete button, yes. And it should worry you, make you feel really sad, irrelevant, insignificant, pathetic, stupid. This class was supposed to be hopeful and inspirational. Right, Anthony? Ahliya.
Does any of the classes you taught actually very hopeful or inspirational?
Yeah. All my classes are inspirational. I mean, you make it sound as if inspiration has to be positive. I mean, the event has to be positive. Look, you're driving home and you see 5 or 6 white cops beating a person of color. It's a horrifying scene. It's negative. But you go home and you write 10 lines of poetry. You pick up Karl Marx and examine what justice and fairness are. Maybe you'll pick up Albert Camus and figure out that life is completely absurd. Maybe you'll go somewhere. Maybe you'll walk. Maybe you'll think. Maybe your life will be changed. That's inspirational. But it was rooted in an event that's just horrifying. Snoop Dogg is not going to inspire you. Maybe to move your body for 10 minutes. Matthew? Anything? Okay. Well, let me just, yeah? Hello. Purpose.
But you didn't explain meaning. So people have a purpose or don't have a purpose. But what if your life is meaningless? Like you have a job, you know what you're supposed to do. Let's just say you do have a purpose. How to be about the bank, it came down, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. And you're doing it. But what if your purpose is not fulfilling? What if you still feel meaningless?
A couple of things. Up to about the 19th century or so, this is just before the Industrial Revolution, i.e., where big cities are everywhere now, factories are everywhere now. We have places like Chicago and New York where the lights never go out, that people stay up from 6 in the morning until 2 in the morning. and they go to clubs, they dance, they have a good time. Add to it the fact that little by little, now you have the invention of the middle class. For the first time in human history, something really interesting happens to us, which is for many, many thousands of years, life is not considered to be a happy event. Read the Gospels. Jesus does not laugh or smile, not once, neither does Socrates, nor Muhammad, nor the Buddha, because life is not a joyous event. It's filled with sorrow, it's filled with struggle and conflict. 19th century, something happens. Now you have money in your pocket. Now you're willing to leave your parents from tiny city, let's just say Berkeley, and you go to San Francisco. How many pieces of advertisement do you have in Berkeley? 5. And what are they about? Religion, damnation, hell, right? Jesus Christ. You go to San Francisco or New York, what happens? Well, you can drink, you can smoke, you can have friends. For the first time, now you can actually find salvation down here. For the longest time in our history, you have to wait till you die to get to heaven and be happy. Now, you don't need God. You don't need to be saved by Jesus Christ. You don't need the church. You don't need the Gospels. You can actually make money and go out there and be happy. Now you look for your soulmate in relationships. I mean, it's a shitty philosophy of life. You know, where everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants to have a job that's meaningful. And that wasn't our case. You can't find a job that's meaningful. Look, there are some people who just are accidents or freaks of nature. Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is a chess champion. He's been a world champion for the past, 10 years. When he came out of his mother's vagina, you know what he said? Chess. He didn't cry, he didn't scream, he didn't say milk, hold me, caress me, none of those things. He just said chess. How many people are gifted like that? None. How many people do you find like Malcolm X who go to prison, find a transformation there, come back and become a prophet, and do not fall into temptation, getting drunk by power, leave Elijah Muhammad, come back and be an open host to everybody, regardless of their skin color and religion. Okay, you and I, forget you, just me. I'm a speck of dust, a piece of trash. You know, if I was to be very, very honest, my life is meaningless. But that particular cross is way too heavy for me to carry. So what I do, and I do really, really well, I distract myself, which is a nice thing to do. It's very healthy. You don't want to think about the father that you loved, but he passed. Because if you keep thinking about your father who's dead, you'll feel isolation. You'll feel loneliness. And then one of the things that death does, after a certain point, it pushes you to go inward. Then you begin to ask yourself, what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your life? What are you doing with your emotions? Why are you spending time with losers? What are you doing with your money? Why are you going to school taking useless classes? And all of a sudden, this life that was supposed to be purposive, meaningful, all of a sudden, like a Dyson vacuum cleaner, your meaning goes away. I suppose the best piece of advice I could offer you is the following. If you hang out with someone like Snoop Dogg, he'll give you fun for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe a year. If you hang out with someone like a Malcolm X, the meaning and the purpose that he imposes upon you will carry you your entire life. Angela Davis lives about maybe 5 or 6 doors down from me. She's about 80. She started her life being some sort of a revolutionary at a very, very young age. Now, here's the problem that Angela has. She has been contaminated by a meaning that refuses to go away. She writes books all the time. She goes on talks all the time. And every time she gives a talk, they give her about $10,000 to about $50,000. Her life is filled with purpose and meaning. That's not me. And that's not you. We have no choice but to hang on to these small, tiny little branches. They'll keep us afloat for a couple of hours, maybe a couple of minutes. And then you realize that you're drowning. then you have to find another distraction, i.e. another branch. So you yourself can't generate meaning unless you just happen to be a genius, like a Jesus Christ. That there is something, what is that poem? Leah, what's that poem? No, Baba. که من خموشم او در فغان و در غوغاست. Yeah, that, I mean, look. I mean, when you look at the character of Jesus, he's a funny guy. I mean, how many 12-year-olds do you find who look at their culture and say, this culture sucks, fuck it? How many 12-year-olds do you find who have been loved by their parents, look at their parents and say, you know what? I feel orphaned. I don't have parents. How many 12-year-olds do you find who live in a well-established, well-knitted community, you know, who look at their community and say, you know what? I have parents, I have friends, I have uncles and aunts and grandparents, but they all suck. They have this restlessness to them. You know, they're looking for something. And this particular quest, it's bubbling from inside. They don't have to read a book. They don't have to see an image on the street. You don't find very many people like that. So for you and I, the best thing that we can do is find someone, find a book. Read the Dialogues of Plato. If you happen to be a religious person, you know, be entertained by the Bible. It's about 5,000 pages. Great stories. It doesn't mean God exists. It doesn't mean that the stuff in there are historical facts. It just gives you meaning for the next like 50, 60, 70 years. Add to it. When you read books like that, they also create shame inside you, guilt inside you, moral codes inside you. Sex before marriage? No. Lying? No. Stealing? No. Maybe. Devante? Yeah. You're not married. So, the answer to your question. Let's say that, well, I was born in Iran. My parents are Muslim. So culturally, I am programmed to be a Muslim. Okay. So that's just me culturally being religious. Then, when you live in culture, you live in society. In society, all sorts of things happen. What society in general does, it makes you feel powerless. Like you sit in this class, you're bored, and you say, God, when is this class going to be over? Okay. That's one form of religiosity. That sometimes your father dies, you don't know what to do with yourself. Your entire life has turned upside down. You drag your behind to the church, you sit, you pray, you cry, you scream. That's one aspect of being religious. Sometimes you get into a relationship, your companion leaves you because you're a piece of shit. You feel lonely, sad, and pathetic. You're depressed chronically. Then you go to church. That's another form of religiosity. Sometimes, like very many of my friends in the 1970s, they ended up in prison because they were into politics. They were tortured. And the only thing that could save them was they believed in the Quran, they believed in God, and somehow they had the power to mentally overcome their physical discomfort. That's another form of religiosity. Then you have someone like Queen. She has a great job. She has a great companion. She's got money in her pocket. She owns her house. She has a nice car, lives in a nice place in Oakland. Right. None of this stuff is going to happen, but let's just say. Okay? And everything about her life is good. All of a sudden, she's hit with this thing that loosely called a midlife crisis. You wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, you look to your left, and there's your companion, you know, snoring away, farting away. And you say to yourself, what am I doing here? Who is this person? You know, I like him, but this sucks. And then you look at your kids. I mean, sure, they're all grown, college. One is a doctor, one is a porn star. And you say, well, I raised these kids, but, they're nice kids, but so what? You have a nice job. It's kind of like most of us in this class.
Which one are you? That's what we wanted. That's what the question was about. We wanted to know which one do you follow.
Well, you got to be patient.
It's just
All good things come. All good things come to those who are patient. Look, I went out last night with.
How was it? Just
and it was a couple years ago. This woman was about 30 years old, and I go to this coffee shop. I say, "Are you like Joanne?" She says, "Yes." "Are you Amir?" I say, "Yes." She says, "I like the way you look." I say, "Well, good." Says, "Let's go to my place." I said, "Well, isn't it too quick? Let's get to know each other." We sit, we have like a mocha, and he says, "Are you done with your coffee?" "Yeah, but let's go home and fuck." I said, "Wait a minute." Sure. And then I'll be quiet. And
is this your ninth wife?
the point I'm trying to make, people like it easy and quick. And that's why relationships can't be established. Relationships takes time and it's complicated. So you gotta wait. Now, so Queen wakes up and her entire life is upside down and she doesn't know why. It's one of those strange things in life, where you fancied buying yourself a car and you do, and for the first couple of months you take your friends here and there and they're very happy because now they got a buddy like you who has a Tesla. And then one day you go home and you're just bored, you turn on the TV, but no good. You go for a walk, it's no good. You pick up a book, it's no good. You say, yes, I have a Tesla. I'll put it on self-drive and I will say to it, give me purpose, go wherever, right? And you realize you're not even fond of going anywhere. You just sit home and you don't know why. Everything about your life is good, but for some strange reason, nothing is nourishing you. Then you feel hopeless and depressed and meaningless and purposeless. And your last resort is, since nothing down here can give me any nourishment, maybe I should go to India, find a Guru Rara Mahaj Koka, and then you say I'm sorry, Abi, I didn't mean to make fun of your culture, even though it's funny. And there's a guy sitting there with a turban, breathes in, breathes out, and farts once in a while, and says, I am the bread, I am the life. Before Abraham, I was, all that funny stuff. And so I suppose the point I'm trying to make is there are parts of you that suffer physically, and you need God to help you. But sometimes your physical life is fine, but you suffer from like a broken marriage or a broken parental relationship, so you go to God. Sometimes you lose a job, you go to God. Sometimes everything about your life is good and you go on a different quest. That's also religious, but it has a different taste to it. The devil? Well, it depends which tradition you're talking about. If you're devil.
You are a Satanist?
No.
What the hell? EJ? Okay, let's take a break. Another question? Sarah?
This one's a bit of a jar. You're talking about.
By the way, assignments. You have questions after each class meeting. Yes, make sure you submit them. And you have a long essay that's due once a month.
You're talking about the need to make an impression and importance in how you live your life upon other people around you. So what about when that changes over time and you don't have control over that?
So I'm not sure if I understand.
Yeah, that was kind of not a good way of asking it. When someone thinks of your history or your importance and it changes their perception.
Well, there are a couple of things. We are creatures of passion in the sense that you're not going to move towards anything if you're not attracted to them. I mean, look, there are some people in this class, I look at them and I just don't like them. I don't know why, but I'm going to trust my spidey senses. Am I going to say everybody's equal? No. Am I going to say I'm going to come to this class and like everybody? No. Am I going to say I'm Jesus Christ, I care for everybody's future? No, fuck that. You know, I'm a 62-year-old guy. I got a limited amount of time and energy. I'm going to look at someone. If they have an open presence to them, maybe I'll look at them. Maybe I'll give them some of my time, some of my energy. Okay? So without being attracted to something, you're not going to move an inch. Okay. Now, one of the things that happens when you find something attractive, is it attractive enough for it to be pursued? Rhett. Sarah? Rhett. Look at him. Doesn't he have nice hair?
Big hair.
So he took my summer class just a couple of weeks ago. And then he comes to me and says, Amir, here's my number. And here's my waist size. And here's, not that. But he says, here's my number. Use me. Exploit me. I will do anything. I'll clean the front yard, the backyard, clean the toilet bowls, all those things. Why would he do that?
Love.
No. I mean, sure, it could have shades of it, but not there yet. Okay? But the only reason why someone would do such a thing is because they like the ideas, they like the class, maybe they like me, maybe they like the way I express ideas, whatever the case may be. But without that attraction, he wouldn't come up. Now, here's the thing. Am I attracted enough to have Red come over my house? 5 years ago, I would say yes. Now I say no. And there is a reason. I've been in the classroom with people for the past 30 years. You know, for about 5 years at Laney, I used to make sandwiches for about 400 students every week. I used to work at hospice and child life services. For some strange reason, I'm at a stage in my life where I just want to be left alone. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to call him. Maybe I'll go home, play with the backyard, come to realize my shoulder hurts. I'll text him, are you a good masseuse? If he says yes, bring the oil. Right? So now, once you're attracted and once there is enough desire, and that's the important thing. If there is enough pressure inside you, okay, sometimes you feel like having a cup of coffee, okay? All of a sudden, ML comes to you, you guys begin to have a conversation and you just forget all about coffee. Why do you forget? There is not enough pressure. And when there is not enough pressure for coffee, there is no desire. But when there is desire, what happens? You pursue it. Hopefully, you'll have the resources to get it. And then once you get it, you will drink as much as you possibly can. Then you realize you're no longer interested. So you'll dump the rest in the trash. I mean, look, imagine that you're single, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me. There is a shelf life in this relationship. There's a shelf life in every goddamn relationship out there. There is going to come a time, Sarah, I'm going to look at you, despite all the passions I may have for you, may have had for you, I'm going to look at you and say, I'm not moved. I'm not inspired. I'm not attracted. I want a way out. And then I'll come home, I'll look at you and say, Sarah, I've come to realize I need to go to the mountains and figure out who I am. So for those of you in this class who imagine that your relationship is going to last for a long time, it won't. It hasn't for anyone else under the sun. It's not going to happen to you. You're no exemption.
So what is the purpose of pursuing relationships? They never come back.
Well, you're a social animal. You know this idea that Jesus has in the Gospels, do not store your treasures down here. Okay. Look, what is your name? Oh, that's right. For those of you who came in late, make sure you see me after class so I can mark you here so I don't drop you. Look, you're a social animal. You need me. You may not like me, but you need me. I am your gateway to your future. Why do you want a companion? You're a man. Don't you have urges?
Yeah,
Wait. You have urges, right? Now, you can pursue your urges in a couple of ways. You can have quickies, you can have longies. Longies means you're a bit more serious, a bit more mature, a bit more responsible, you're more invested. Quickies is just a piece of shit. It depends on your age, of course. Okay? Now, time passes, you're going to get old. You're going to be limping along. You're going to get sick. Human beings, we don't enjoy pain. We don't enjoy physical pain. We don't enjoy emotional pain. We don't enjoy intellectual pain. You're going to do whatever you possibly can to get rid of anything that disturbs your life. Anything. Old age is one of them. The best thing you can do for yourself, not to fall in love, that's stupid. You know, once in a while I see these like 20-year-old kids with like this brand new Mustang. It's glossy, shiny. They're stupid. And not any of you guys. You're 20. Save your money. Think about like 20 years from now. Buy a house. You know, buy a minivan just in case you get someone pregnant. At least, you know, there's enough space in your car to carry these stupid things around. Okay? You have relationships because you're aware of certain things. Human beings are lonely and want companion. Once in a while, you want to hold hands with someone. Once in a while, Oakland becomes too much, and you want to go to Santa Cruz. Is it true that sometimes you look into your companion's eyes and feel dead? Absolutely. You tolerate it? Definitely. Okay? And then you take the other step, which is you look yourself in the mirror and you say, Lavelle, right now you're 28. In a couple of years, you'll be 48, and then 58. Look at your mom. You know, she's got no husband, she's got no boyfriend, she's got no companion. Look at her. She's sad, depressed, lonely, miserable. Do you want to turn out to be like that? The answer is no. So what do? You become a political animal. You go around on dating apps. You begin to read people's profiles. Are they married? Are they single? Are they good to their parents? Do they smoke? Do they drink? Did they go to school? Do they have any money saved? Do they have a car? Do they have a house? And if you realize they meet basic qualifications, then you say, you know what? Why don't we meet at a coffee shop somewhere? And it's not because you're going to fall in love with them. And if you do, fine. And one of the things about us is that people grow on you. I mean, I hate animals. The only thing they're good for is eating, right? But there is this cat who comes to the house all the time. Just meows. So I go to Costco once a month. I buy cat food. Am I like an animal lover? No. But things grow on you. People eventually grow on you. If you're immature, you just buy a Mustang that's glossy, you drive it around, then you realize, 35, it's no good for the family, it's no good for you, you're too old for the stuff, So yeah, you get into a relationship because you're a miserable little animal. You need people. You need to exploit and manipulate other people in a good way. But the thing you need to understand is right now the divorce rate is about 70%. So even if you do find the right companion, there's a good chance it won't last. Good luck. Yeah, Eleanor.
What do you have to say then, backtracking to your point that no relationship actually lasts? What do you have to say about someone like my great-grandparents who are no longer with us? They've been together since middle school.
My mom got married when she was 15. My dad was 27, 28. They're still married. You're talking about people who lived in a different time. Divorce didn't exist. Religion existed. People were much more civilized. Right now you go in broad daylight, Grand Avenue, there are people probably breaking into your car. You couldn't see that like 20 years ago. In the 1970s, people would leave their house without any locks on the doors. That's not the case today. You're talking about a completely different generation of people. There was no internet. When I was growing up, there were no cartoons. And even if there were, Aquaman, Superman, you wouldn't see people kissing these cartoon characters. Now, are you kidding? They fuck. And you're afraid to take your kids, like they're 2. You know? And there is nothing wrong with, being gay, being trans, being all that stuff. But for a 2-year-old to come to me and say, so Dad, am I this or this or this or this? It's just too much to process at the age of 2. When you have a culture that just imposes ideas that are just too much to digest at a certain point, what happens when your digestive system doesn't work well? Well, you get constipated. What happens when you're constipated? You fart all the time. You have a stomachache all the time. You're just uneasy. I don't want to go on gender stuff. At least not right now. Anyone else?
Won't AI and robotics replace relationships over time?
Well, that's the problem they're having in Japan. They're getting people from tiny villages, dumping them in big cities so people can start having sex and having babies.
My ChatGPT guy, he's my boyfriend.
Yeah, I text my phone too.
All right, let's move on. Yeah. Ari? Yeah.
If you have love for someone, I like my kids.
My parents probably said that.
I love you, I just don't like you right now.
I mean, he said love and misunderstood the word love.
So, imagine you and I are in a relationship. Okay. Now, as we're sitting in a coffee shop and talking, you tell me about how awful your parents are and how messed up you are emotionally. I like you physically, but I don't want to play the therapist in the relationship. I don't love you emotionally, but I love you physically. And this is what the Greeks called the eros aspect of love. That you love someone's physicality without getting to know their emotions, without getting to know their thought process or intellectual part, or without getting to know their spirit. But you love them physically. I mean, Angelina Jolie, she's hot. Anthony Hopkins, he's hot. Do I know their history? No. Do I know their life? No. All I know is that when I look at them, something happens to me. Why, how, who, what? Who the hell cares? Okay. Sometimes, change the scenario, I look at you and I'm not fascinated, I'm not interested, I'm not moved by the way you look. But then I happen to be at a certain point in my life where I feel needed, I want to be needed. So you tell me about all the miserable happenings of your parents and you. I love your emotions. Your emotions make my life meaningful. Your emotions give me purpose. Your emotions blossom our relationship.
Like codependency.
Codependency is good. I mean, codependency is really, 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 really good. It just depends who you're codependent on. Okay? So, every time people add something to their question or say something, it takes me to a different place. I want to tell you a different story, but I realize I left the first story incomplete, so let me just stop myself and continue. So even though I'm not attracted to you physically, I don't like you, I don't love you physically, there is something about your emotions. I love the miserable, sorrowful, sad stories that live inside you. They bring me to life, and I like that. And because I slowly begin to like your emotions, I begin to fall in love with your emotions, and I know that your emotions live in this container called your physical body. Through your emotions, I begin to like you, your physical body, and then we have sex. Hold hands, sit together and watch TV. Sometimes I sit next to you and I realize I'm not attracted to your physical body. Emotionally, you feel somewhat dead, but intellectually, you're like, I don't know, who's that guy on TV once in a while? One of them. that intellectually you're just very profound. You say interesting stuff. And I like the tone of your voice, and I like the way you express ideas. And all of a sudden I realize, yes, when I sit next to you, just when you're quiet, I don't feel anything. When I look at you physically, I want to puke. But the moment you open your mouth and you begin to talk, like Noam Chomsky, all these wonderful ideas come out of you. And then all of a sudden, these ideas make me feel. And now I begin to feel, have feelings towards you. Okay? And then one of the things about emotions and thoughts, but especially emotions, is there comes a point where you want your emotions to have a physical container. If I keep pointing this to you, and there is coffee in it, and I entice you, tempt you, there comes a point where you want to put your mouth to this cup. It's no longer for you enough to sit way over there, to look at it, and to feel stuff. At a certain point, feelings need a physical container. That's why when two people fall in love, you come to a point where emotions just no longer have the language. It's not enough for you to just look at someone. It's not enough to hold their hands. You actually want to like penetrate into them. But it's not your penis going to the vagina or vice versa. Okay? It's something else happening. It has its own unique language. Okay? There is, at times, you come across certain people, physically they disappoint you, emotionally they disappoint you, they don't move you, intellectually, you kind of feel as if they're somewhat dumb, okay? Once in a while they open their mouth and they say something and you realize they're not intellectual like Noam Chomsky, like James Baldwin. You know, there is something else about them and you don't know what it is. It's not tangible, you can't touch it. They have a mystery about them and you don't really know what it is. But it captivates you, it inspires you, it creates passions about you. And these are like the spiritual aspect, what the Greeks would call agape. So English, unfortunately, is just a very, very bad language for human beings. Unless you happen to be very, very gifted like Walt Whitman or Oscar Wilde, where you could kind of inject some of your emotions into language. But English is kind of like 2x4, it's very coarse. Sanskrit, Indian language, beautiful. Persian, more beautiful than Indian. Maxine? What is that? What? You're talking about the monogamous symbiotic or a polygamous relationship? My question to you is, imagine there is me and there is EJ. You love both of us equally, is that what you're saying? You just love EJ. And EJ loves you.
In friendship or in a relationship, but just like how what you mentioned not away, which would
Okay. It's a bad analogy, but let me try and see where it goes. Do you want to be my friend? Are you sure? You're how old? You're 22. I'm 62. So I'm like 60 years older than you are. Yeah. You're also American? And that's about 200 years old. I'm Persian. It's about 4,000 years old. What exactly in our relationship is equal? Look, I'll be your friend, one condition. You come to class, you ask questions, you come to the office. Don't ask questions I don't like. Slowly come to like me. Slowly come to love me. Let me guide and direct your life like a good GPS. Let me have power over everything about you. I mean, you're 20. What the hell do you know about anything? My agenda is very simple. For you to go to school, get your master's or PhD, and start teaching. Anything other than that, it's useless for me. But for you to be able to do that, you need to be codependent on me. There's a power play. All relationships have a good amount of power in it. No two people love the same. No two people have equal power. And once you have your degrees and once you walk in the classroom or whatever and you start teaching, our relationship has ended. I have no need for you, and you have no need for me. The romantic kind, they're just stupid. So, a couple of things about parents. And Queen and myself and Abi will tell you, maybe. Let's say your dad was 18 and your mom was also 18. And your dad is jogging around the lake and your mom is jogging just the opposite side. Like your dad is here, your mom is on the opposite side of the lake. And your father to be, right, he looks to his left and sees this young hot chick running around. And like Sonic, he runs really, really fast and catches up to her. You know why this young man is pursuing this young woman? She's got nice looking legs. Remember what we talked about with Sarah? Something about your mom or this young woman inspires this young man. We don't know why. Attraction is a mysterious thing. Why do you like someone? Who the hell knows? I mean, you don't know them. It's not like you know their history. But something about you or this person finds this other person attractive enough. And there is something about us, when you find something attractive, if there is a good amount of, again, passion in it, you spend time. That's the stuff you give to create relationships. You spend time. In spending time, you create stories. Stories are like glue to relationships. And once these two people have been glued together because of time spent, because of when you spend time, emotions are generated. You begin to plan for a future. You begin to fantasize about sexual encounters later on. Eventually they have sex, right? Now an 18-year-old is in no position to be a dad. He's got no money, okay? He's got no education. He's just an 18-year-old punk. And what 18-year-olds are good at is being confused, especially men. Okay, so they have sex. Now, the man is not going to desire to become a father. He just wants to have sex. The woman, too, who wants to have sex. I mean, you have to understand that after the 1960s, contraception, our relationship to this thing called sex changed radically. Sex becomes casual. Human relationships become more casual. You don't really think about it that much anymore. You like someone, you screw them, and you don't have to see them again. The element of shame from the culture has been gone, taken away. So you're not even ashamed or even embarrassed. You say, it's your right, it's my body, I can do whatever I want with it. Add to it the fact that you're 18, you assume yourself to be independent and free and all that. Okay? So this young man meets this young woman, eventually they find themselves in the bedroom and they have sex. She's hoping he'll pull out. He's hoping, well, she'll probably be on the pill or something. But it's a conversation they don't have. Okay? 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 days pass by and the woman says, I feel a little funny. Is she ready to be a mom? No. Is anyone ready to be a parent? No. Especially in the 20th century, 21st century? Absolutely not. Okay? You don't really have the culture that supports parenthood or children. Now, what happens to a woman when she gets pregnant? The child isn't out yet. Yet, as a woman, you have a relationship with this unborn thing inside you, slowly growing. Now, something happens to you as a woman. You begin to have fantasies. I'm going to go to Home Depot, buy 2x4s, have my husband, who's a handyman, make a crib. You're going to go to Home Depot, steal buckets of paint the room pink or blue or yellow or black. You're going to go to Costco, steal diapers and formulas. You know, we're going to move from downtown Oakland to Montclair, where there is no crime, no this, no that. Okay? I'm going to make it really safe for my child. All parents have fantasies. Now, you have fantasies because reality hasn't yet stopped you. And the moment you have a child, even before that, you know, there is a special connection between the woman and the child, and later on the father, of course. Even the fathers usually take a while, like 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Okay. Now, what is it that parents put inside their kids? Hopes, dreams. I want to make sure that my kids don't repeat my mistakes. Just in case my child comes to me and says, you know, I'm going to drop out of school. What, you think she's going to be happy? No. You know what she's going to learn? Yeah, kids have ears, they just don't hear. Kids have eyes, they just don't see. My kid, he's 18, he's one that drops out of school. He sees how difficult life is, you know how difficult money is, you know how difficult everything is, and yet he's stupid enough to say, I want out. So what do you do as a father, as a mother? You will continue to love him, but you won't like him. Now, love is something organic. Like, you have to work on. Because for you to like something, okay, you have to like what you see. You have to see the product. I love my kids. I just don't like them that much. I love my wife. I just don't like her that much. I love teaching. I no longer like being in the classroom. You're going to love your companion. You just won't like him as much. Because it's going to take your man about 50 years to learn to take the trash out, you know, to spend the money in the right way, to have the right kind of friends, to be a good father, to be a good friend to your parents, all those things. Parental love is very, very different. Romantic love is, again, it's relatively new. It was condemned for thousands of years. It's only recent. And we don't really know what to do with it. It's relatively new. And whenever you are confronted with anything that is new, it's going to take you a few hundred years, if not thousands, to kind of figure out how to best deal with it. That's how it is. Your parents, trust me, Maxine, they don't like you. And to give you a very, very, very simple example, look, you finished high school hopefully at the age of 18. You go to college for 2 years, that's 20. You go to a state, okay? By the time you're 21, 22, you're done with your bachelor's. By the time you're 23, 24, you're done with your master's. Depending on your parents, your surrounding, okay, the environment in which you were born, by the time you're 27, 28, 29, you're a doctor. You're 22 at Laney College. Now, the very fact that you looked at your mom and said you're going to go back to school, that made her profoundly happy. The very fact that you said I'm going to drop out, that made her profoundly miserable and disgusted and sad. But what do parents do? They can't do much. After a while, out of frustration, they just walk away. And they go to church. I say, Jesus, you help her, because I can't. Yeah, cool. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention as part of, forgive me. If you could refrain from making comments, just ask questions. No comments. If you want to make comments, you have a Facebook page, you have Tinder, you have Instagram, you have friends. Just make your comments over there. End this class. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's all good. Anyone else? Devontae.
This is the first class for you because you question every grade, right?
Say again?
Because that's how you, when I'm in your class, I'm just questioning life.
Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention. if you can, leave the questions and the ideas in the classroom. Just leave empty, the way you came in.
So don't steal.
No. Take nothing with you, if you can. But if you do, try to forget them. Just to express how potent, how explosive, how dangerous ideas are, there was this tiny little fellow. His name was, I think, Henry David Thoreau. He had a teacher whose name was Emerson. And despite the age difference, this young man was very much in love with his teacher's wife, Emily. Of course, his brother died. He got fired from school. He goes somewhere with a tiny little book. It's called Bhagavad Gita. It's an Indian sacred text. You know, sometimes you just happen to be in the right place in life, and you don't know how that happens or why that happens, but you read something and it goes inside you, and you want to push it out, but it refuses to leave. And as time passes, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger until it just fully consumes you. In Arabic, there is a plant. It's called ashaqa. It's like a binding weed. It lives underground, looks for a tree, once finds, comes up, wraps itself around the tree, feeds off of the tree, and the tree becomes hollow from within and eventually dies. Now, Emerson is a young kid, 20. He reads this book and it just goes inside him. And he tries to push the ideas out, but they won't go. And so he writes this book, Civil Disobedience. And he becomes one of the founders of the Transcendental Movement around the 19th century. It's a huge thing. Time passes, there's this Indian guy, he's on a train reading this book. A book written by Henry David Thoreau, and the guy who's reading is Mahatma Gandhi. And very much like David, he happens to be in the right place, he reads the ideas, and the ideas go inside him, they refuse to leave. And Gandhi, single-handedly, of course with some help from his own people, drives out 400,000 British soldiers. A few years later, some guy in the South, whose name is Martin Luther King Jr., reads some writings of Mahatma Gandhi. He happens to be in the right place. And because Gandhi was passive, Martin Luther King becomes a passive soldier. And he changes the course of the American culture to some extent. And the point I'm trying to make is we are cursed as well as being lucky in a variety of different ways. We are lucky in the sense that we forget. We forget all of our bad relationships. We forget the fact that society is rotten. We forget the fact that we are confused, we are lonely, we are miserable. We forget. And because we forget, we continue with life and we continue making the same mistakes. So in one aspect, forgetfulness is really, really, really good for your health. You know, it keeps you from going mad. We're also cursed in the sense that I had a friend. She was a surgeon at Highland Hospital, married. One day she goes to do this routine surgery, and there's an intern. And this intern was a guy who had volunteered to come to Highland Hospital in Oakland from Los Angeles. She was from Afghanistan, he was from Iran. She looks at him. We don't know why, we don't know how, magic happens. I want this man. But she had come from a traditional environment. Fantasizing about another guy while married is inappropriate. So she calls her boss and says, I can't do this surgery today. Days pass. She's doing surgery. This guy all of a sudden walks in, and there's no escape from it now. Their eyes meet. They have coffee. 10 minutes later, they find an empty surgery room. They're on that white plastic bed, going up and down like rabbits. Her marriage falls apart. She gets depressed. She loses about 50 pounds. Her parents disown her. And the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you happen to be in the right place in life, and I don't again know how this happens, where something goes inside you and it refuses to leave, and you're forever changed. And you can't go back to the person that you once were. Yeah.
How we digest the idea that we can make the mistakes over and over and then we don't learn from it?
Well, there are a couple of things. If you have any friends, any family members, or if you yourself are addicted to anything, whether you're addicted to porn, watching porn on TV with your kids, or whether you're an alcoholic or addicted to doing drugs, one of the things that addiction to anything does, because when you make decisions, you have to understand you're making decisions based on a foundation. It's called the way you think, the way you feel, and your background, your past. We create inside ourselves this thing called routine and habits. Habits allow you to predict the future. Today when I go home, I'm going to stop at this bar and I'm going to drink. So from 12 to 2, you know exactly where you're going to be. But I'm not going to drink alone. I'm going to ask Mike and John and Jack to come with me. These are the friends you've had for the past 20 years. Okay? So remember, whenever you're addicted to anything, it comes with a set of relationships. And these relationships are strong and powerful. They're like, they glue you. Okay? There comes a point where you, for whatever the reasons are, you wake up and you say, you know what? I no longer want to drink. It's an inspired moment. But this inspiration stands in the backdrop of 20 years of habits and routines and addictions. Okay? You have to have a lot of resources, lots of tools to get rid of 20 years of habits. Okay? To be able to create for yourself a brand new life, a brand new set of addictions. Let's say you've been watching porn for the past like 10 years, every single day for for 5 hours. Right? Now, porn happens to be one of the easiest way not only to worship, but also to gain pleasure and to find satisfaction. Everything else in life takes a lot of work. Okay? Now, let's say for the first time now, you're inspired to get yourself into a very, very healthy relationship. Well, mentally, you have trained yourself, and you don't do it consciously, it just happens organically. You're trained to look at a woman as an object. Spending time with her is something you've never known. Having a conversation, it's something you've never experienced. So these are things you have to learn. And every time you want to treat her like a sex object, you need to remember and you need to stop. That takes a lot of will, a lot of strength, a lot of awareness. And you have to overcome a good amount of laziness. And that's just too much work. So oftentimes, because it is such a painful process, change, whatever the change may be, because it is such a painful process, what you usually do is you just turn the other way. You say, no, it's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Just give you one more example, and then I had a triple bypass in March last year. It's where they open your chest, they take out some of your veins, and they put new veins in it. And one of the things I need to do is I need to walk 45 minutes to an hour every single day. No fatty food, no sugar, exercise. Okay? I really, really have to force myself to walk. And there are days I just won't do it, and I don't care if I die. And the point I'm trying to make, even if your life is threatened, you're dealing with about 60 years of habits, very difficult to overcome. So all this idea that you have in America, change is easy, You know, you're going through a divorce, figure out what to do, buy a book, watch a YouTube clip. None of those things are going to work. I think Oscar Wilde was very right. Anything that has any value cannot be learned from books or from people. You got to do it on your own. But you need to have enough tools to be able to do it on your own. You must have read enough books, talked to enough people, watched enough YouTube clips. Then you sit somewhere and say, okay, I have all this stuff, what am I going to do with it? Then hopefully you can, connect the dots. Anyone else? What time is it? Ali? So after every class, you're supposed to post a question on Canvas. Comes from the class lecture. Something that caught your attention, inspired you, whatever. Or maybe nothing. Make something up. Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.